The topic we are considering now is distributive trade. When we talk of distributive trade, we are talking of the totality of all forms of trade activities, starting from the procurement of goods from the manufacturer to the delivery of these goods to the final consumers. Starting from the procurement of goods from the factory to the delivery of these goods to the final consumer in the market, in the society. That is distributive trade. What are the activities that will take place in the process of taking the goods from the point of production to the point of final consumption? That is distributive trade. Now, a channel of distribution is the chain of businesses or intermediaries through which the goods and services passes through to reach the final consumer. The activities that takes place and the agents that are involved in carrying the goods and services produced to the final consumer is what we are referring to as distribution channel. That is the channel through which it passes through. That is distribution channel. A distribution channel can include wholesalers and retailers. Those are the two major distributors in the society, in the market. They are wholesalers and retailers, and they can be involved in physical transportation of the goods from the point of production to the final consumer, and it can also be involved in form of the use of internet these days. Recently, internet has been involved because through internet we can link the producer to the final consumers. That is another channel. The path through which goods and services travel from the vendor to the consumer, or the path through which the payment for those products passes through from the consumer to the producer, is another way of describing the distribution channel. A distribution channel can be as short as direct from the producer to the final consumer, that there will be no intermediaries. And at the same time, it can be as long as passing through the wholesaler and retailers before the goods can reach the final consumer from the producers. But let's look at the major three levels of distribution channel. The first one is from the manufacturer to the final consumer. There is no intermediary. You can't find retailer, you can't find wholesalers. The second one is when the retailer is coming in, from manufacturer to the retailer, and from retailer to the final consumer. In that case, retailer is serving as the middleman. And the last one is the longest one that we can ever have, is from the manufacturer to the wholesaler, and from the wholesaler to the retailer, and from the retailer to the final consumer. In that case, there are two middlemen, and it can take a kind of longer time before the final consumer can get the products that are produced in that society. Now, when we talk of middlemen, what are we talking about? Middlemen simply are the agents or the human elements that are involved in the distribution of goods from the manufacturer to the final consumer. And there are majorly two. We have wholesalers and we have retailers. Wholesalers is a merchant who purchases goods in large quantity from the producer, from the manufacturer, and sell in a smaller quantity to the retailer. This smaller quantity may not be in a unit, but in a smaller quantity that will be easy for the retailer to buy. That is a wholesaler. Now, let's look at the function of the wholesaler. Why do we need a wholesaler? A wholesaler buys the goods in bulk, and they make it easy for the retailer to get it in a smaller quantity. They will buy it, they will assemble it, and they will bring it closer to the retailers in a way that they will be able to get it. So they buy in bulk and they break it down to a smaller quantity that the retailer will be able to buy in a smaller quantity. Another function is warehousing. They keep the products for the time being that the producer could not hold it. they keep it, they provide warehousing so that anytime it is needed in the market, they will be able to provide it. So they store the goods for a particular period of time until those goods are needed for consumption in the market. Another function of a wholesaler is grading and packaging. They usually grade the products accordingly and package it and repackage it in a way that will be more attractive and will represent more quality to the society, so that they will supply it to the retailer. Other function that they perform is the transportation of the goods from the point of manufacturing to the point of final consumption. To the point of final consumption where it can reach the retailer and then to the consumer. Another function is financing. Wholesaler also finance the production of the goods. They usually provide finance for the manufacturer and also finance for the retailers. They serve as intermediary between the two. Whenever the producer is in need of money to produce some certain goods or the other, the wholesaler can provide funds that they will use to collect and get goods from them, so that the producer can go on with the production. And at the same time, they can provide financing for the retailer in a way that they will give the retailer in form of credit, so that the retailer will have we have goods to sell, and after the sales, they will return the money to the wholesalers. Also, another function of wholesaler is risk bearing. Wholesaler perform the marketing function of risk bearing in the sense that the goods that are produced by the manufacturers and bought by the wholesaler in bulk, some of them, in some cases, they may be goods that are liable to get spoiled on time. And in this case, that the wholesaler involves themselves in saving and storing those goods for a particular period of time before it can be needed by the society, there is possibility of those goods to get spoiled along the way. In that case, they will not be able to hold anybody responsible, and at the same time, they need to do this because it is necessary. So that one is another risk that is exposed to the wholesaler in that distribution channel. So they take the risk of storing the goods for a particular period of time, and the risk of the goods getting spoiled is on them. That is risk-bearing function that wholesalers perform. Another function is the marketing information. Wholesalers get information from the producers and transfer the information to the retailer, and at the same time get information from the retailer and give it back to the producers. They get the information from the retailer on what the customers want. What are the preferences and tastes of the customers? What are the information, other information that the customers are giving, or maybe they are complaining. All this information needs to be transferred to the producer, so that the producer will know how to adjust their production and what to improve on in the process of production. That is another function of wholesalers. Another function that we have, which is dispersion of goods. That means the wholesalers make it easy for the goods produced by the manufacturer to go around the city, to go around the country, to go around the society. That is, the goods are being transferred by the wholesalers to different locations where the retailers are scattered. In that case, the wholesalers perform the function of spreading the goods all over where they are needed. Those are the functions of the wholesalers. Now let's look at the retailers. The word retailer comes from the French word retail, and the word retail in French means to sell in small quantity rather than in gross, rather than in bulk. That is where they got the word retail. The retailer is a person who purchases a variety of goods in small quantity from different wholesalers and sell it to the final consumer in units. in units, one by one. So the retailer gets and buy the goods in small quantity, relatively bigger quantity, and sell it in units, one after the other. So the retailer is the last link in the distribution channel, is the last link that link the producer to the final consumer. So is the closest to the consumer. So is the retailer is the one that is closer to the consumer, is the one that listens to the consumer, is the one that gets information to the from the consumer and give it to the wholesaler or directly to the producers. What are the characteristics of a retailer? A retailer is regarded as the last link of in the chain of distribution, like we said. Also, he purchases goods in a relatively large quantity from the wholesaler and sells in units, the smallest quantity, to the final consumers. Another characteristic is that it deals in general products or variety of merchandise. That is, retailers deals with different kind of products. They are not so specific that, oh, this is the good that we are producing, or this is the goods that we are selling, but they have series, as many as the consumers may need. So the retailers deal with varieties of goods. Also, the retailer develop personal contact with the customers because they are the closest to the customers. They are the one that will have personal relationship with the customers. They interact with the customers. They transact with the customers. Also, the aim at providing maximum satisfaction to the consumer is on the retailer. So the retailer must be the one that is ready to always satisfy the customer.